Hi, welcome to Atheist Edge. I'm Sam.
I'm Jim.
And today we're going to be talking about atheists in the military. Now, Jim, you are the proverbial atheist in a foxhole. You are the disproof of that common Christian saying?
It's so more common than most people think. That's just a ridiculous saying. I think it got really popular when, was it Katie Couric on a TV broadcast? She's the first one that, it might have been before her, but she's the one that famously said there's no atheist in foxholes. And of course, I'm living proof that that is completely untrue. There's so many more like me. A lot of them stay in the closet for fear of retribution. I was open about it from the get-go, and I suffered a lot of retribution, especially at the lower ranks. As you get higher in rank, it's a lot easier. But in 21 years in the Marine Corps, I was never the only atheist in my unit. There was always at least some others. I fought alongside numerous non-believers, and some of them, like myself, just make it out relatively unscathed. But others, they paid for it dearly with their lives. We're just like every other member of the military. There's soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. They put their life on the line every day to defend the American way of life and the Constitution. Their allegiance to a perceived deity or lack thereof is never a factor in their service. When the shit hits the fan, we don't fall to our knees and pray to an imaginary sky daddy. We do our job. We're doing our job just like everyone else. We're kicking in doors. We're putting rounds down range. We're whatever we're trained to do, and we do it to the best of our ability, just like everyone else. We just simply ask that we're treated the same as our believing brothers and sisters.
Right.
I don't know.
Absolutely. Now, what is it like in boot camp to be an atheist? Are you forced to attend church every Sunday? Is that a requirement in boot camp?
Boot camp's only, well, I'm speaking as a Marine. The other services vary, but boot camp's 13 weeks in the Marine Corps. While you're in, you don't have a lot of rights. Church religious worship service happens on Sunday mornings from the time you wake up till about noon. There's a time for worship services. You don't have to attend these. There's no institutionalized penalty for not attending these. You can stay in the squad bay, read a newspaper, get your gear squared away, whatever. Like I said, there's no institutionalized persecution. But
maybe on an individual level?
Yes. Individual leadership. Let's say you have a drill instructor, crazy religious. He's got an enormous amount of authority over you. And he's going to find ways, if he can't do it right then, because they can't really touch you when you're on your free time. That's one of the only times they can't mess with you. And they do. And they're always looking over their shoulder because the higher leadership, it's a hierarchy. It's a hierarchy.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, they will find ways to make your life miserable. Like I said, the lower rank you are, when you're a recruit, you're nothing. You're a maggot. You really don't have a lot of rights. You're at the whims of, if you just get unlucky and you get a Bible-thumping drill instructor, he's going to find a way.
Gotcha. So now there's not just atheists in the military now, but and not just Christians, like it's commonly been thought as everybody's Christian, but you have, Wiccans and Mormons and pagans and do they all have their own like little separate services in boot camp?
Yes. Well, I've been to boot camp twice. Once as a recruit and once as a staff sergeant when I went as a drill instructor.
Yeah.
So I kind of have a unique perspective. I've seen it from both angles and the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
So when recruits are first starting out, they're marched everywhere. They don't know the lay of the land. They don't, they're given more and more privileges as time goes on.
Right.
So later on, they march themselves in groups of 10 to whatever church service. We do it at the beginning. So Catholic Mass, Catholics, stand up, get to the quarterdeck. We round them up, we take them down. So it's usually on Sundays. Saturday services for the Jewish kids and the Wiccans.
Okay.
And so both of those are lay leaders because there are Jewish chaplains, but they're usually
Few and far between.
Few and far between. So if they're not around, it's especially the Wiccan. There are no Wiccan chaplains.
Mm-hmm.
There are no Mormon chaplains. These are led by lay leaders. Whichever recruit takes the initiative to, knows the most about, say, Wiccan.
Now, why are there even chaplains in the military in the first place?
Well, let's see. James Madison, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson openly spoke out against chaplains in any form of the government.
Right.
And they spoke specifically of military chaplains and chaplains in Congress, which they were implementing even back then. And most of our founding fathers were adamantly opposed to it.
Because it's a violation of separation of church and state.
It's a direct violation. You got it. You got it, man.
Yeah.
It totally is.
Absolutely. So, earlier when we were talking, you had this one story whenever you were a director at the, boot camps, and a couple of Mormons.
Oh, the Mormons? Story?
Yeah, the Mormons.
Okay, here you go. Or like I said, later on they can march themselves in groups of 10.
Uh-huh.
And inevitably, in a herd of like 92 recruits, a platoon size somewhere between 75 and 90 recruits, you're going to get one or two Latter-day Saints. Mm-hmm. All right, so it's time for Mormon service. We're constantly keeping track of time. I mean, every minute is like this. So, all right, it's time. Mormons, get up here. Let's do it. So, two of them straggle up and they march themselves down. They walk in step and Mormon services, like a lot of the non-mainstream religions, they don't have their own chapel. It's like conference rooms. Mm-hmm. So there's an annex over there with a conference room. Mm-hmm. Recruits don't get to make phone calls out.
Well, they don't get to make phone calls.
No, it's just one of the things. You do not get contact with the outside world. You get one phone call when you come, and it's to tell your parents that you made it there safe. You don't call them again until near graduation.
And that's it. No calls, no phone calls, nothing.
Yeah, but guess what there is right out in front of the conference room that the Mormons use?
The phone?
A payphone.
A payphone.
Right. So recruits, of course, caught wind of this. Mm-hmm. No drill instructors around. Uh-huh. It's led by a lay leader. There's no leadership in this area. They get an hour. Who knows if they're reading the Book of Mormon or what they're doing in there, the first couple weeks we let them march on their own. It's maybe 2 or 3 recruits. Mm-hmm. And then I started noticing, a week later, there's like 7 recruits going to Mormon service. Then there's like half my platoon just converted to Latter-day Saints. I'm like, what? So I surreptitiously, I'm sneaking down there. I'm hiding in bushes, and they're marching their big gaggle down to the the Mormon conference room, and then I come, sneak up on them, and then of course it's a line of recruits at the payphone, and when they see me, they scatter like cockroaches, and it got ugly, but it's just funny how easily, now I'm a Mormon, anyway.
And then next week was a big deconversion.
Oh yeah, it was a massive
deconversion.
I did my job to make sure Mormonism, the numbers got cut by about 30 that week.
Now, we've been talking about boot camps. What is it like on a daily basis? Like once you've gone through boot camp training and you're in your everyday military mode, are there times when you have to participate in religious activities or prayers?
Okay, you're talking after the boot camp, and then you go through your MOS school, and then you're just you're doing your you're doing your job. To answer that question, yes, but not as much as you think. There are mandatory. Anytime we're in a parade or ceremony, retirement ceremony, any type of graduation, any kind of ceremony, when we're in formation, there's always an invocation, another violation.
Gotcha.
They got a chaplain up there. Please bow your heads. Well, we're in formation. There's no some of you bow your heads and some of you don't. We all have to do the same thing.
Right.
So if you're an atheist, guess what? You're bowing your head.
Right.
That's one thing, everyone's got to look the same in formation. So when you say, is there forced, that's the only thing where you're forced to do it. Now, a lot of times in...
like maybe on an individual basis, say you're just about to go out on a dangerous mission.
That happens. Especially if you're about to go outside the wire, you're going to be in harm's way.
The wire?
If like in a combat zone, you're usually well protected in a forward operating base or some sort of base. If you go on a convoy, you're delivering gear or you're doing a patrol. you go outside of your comfort zone. And you're
Gotcha.
patrolling the streets of downtown Fallujah, for instance. If you know you're in somewhere, I've taken fire 3 times, and I was lucky. I mean, if I were a infantryman, that would be a daily occurrence.
Right.
But before you gear up, it's really common where the convoy commander or the commanding officer will, the Marines that are getting ready to saddle up and jump in Humvees, hey, let's gather around. And inevitably, and you know what, this is when, even as a master sergeant, even as a higher rank, I still feel just kind of left out. Not left out. I don't even want to be a part of it. I don't care. But I'll come into the group.
Right.
I'll stay standing. I'll just stand there and wait for them to do their thing. But they're on their knees and they're, Heavenly Father, okay, do your thing. And I know there's always going to be a fair amount of animosity about it. But if someone like me, I'm not openly rebelling. I'm just not participating.
Right.
And it'll make other non-believers that are in the closet, it'll make them go, I don't have to do this.
Yeah. Have you ever
Takes some
experienced
courage.
any backlash from superior officers or fellow soldiers from not participating in like a little voluntary prayer like that?
I'm not going to say where I was stationed. I don't want to give away exactly who it was, but I had a commanding officer, very religious, never directly said anything to me about it. He knew, and at the time, you know me. I don't. There's no secret. There's no shame in my game. But
Right.
So I mean, he had ways, rumors, and just snide remarks, and I would hear from other people. Hey, Hall, your CO. Guess what he said about atheists the other day? And he would never say it to my face. It was just,
Right.
he was just sneaky around.
Yeah.
But of course he did my fitness reports. You get evaluated periodically on your job performance. They were, my shit was fucking tight, except when he was my CO.
Gotcha.
And it was obvious. In fact, it got to the point where I stood up for myself and said, okay, look at my fitness reports up till this unit. Do you see a problem? You know what's going on. There's a thing you can now. You got to use this right sparingly. It's called request mast. Request mast is basically going over the head of your superiors.
Gotcha.
And you go even higher and you say, hey, I'm getting fucked with down here.
Right.
I've never request mast, but I've done things resembling that. If given the opportunity, I'll call out his bullshit. And as long as you have courage, stand up for yourself. You got to do it respectfully, of course. It's the military.
Right. Because
But
there is
if
the
you let him know,
hierarchy.
totally.
Yeah.
If you let him know, I've got my eyes on you. I'm holding you accountable. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah. How does your rank affect your ability to stand up against such things?
If you're an E1, you have no rights. Don't, that's not a good time to, in fact, I would almost consider staying in your hole for a little while. Don't make waves. You're in that school of fish. You don't want to be the fish that swims outside the school and gets eaten by the shark.
Right.
I hate to say that. The higher rank you are, the more you can stand up for yourself. And it's just as simple. I don't like the system, but that's the way it is.
Right.
If you're in the military and you're trying to find a way through this and you're a non-believer, if you're a lower rank, take that advice. If you're thinking about entering the military, if you got a friend that's maybe in it, impart this knowledge to him, because you pick your battles. There's a time and a place to stand up for yourself.
Now, what are some positive changes that have been happening in the military in regards to these issues?
Well, I mean, they added atheist code to our dog tags. So when I first came in, the closest thing to atheism we had was no religious preference. My original dog tags had no religious preference. A few years in, agnostic opened up. So I was agnostic for a little while. And then, I was in for 21 years. It took, I was over halfway through my career when Code 75 finally opened up for atheism.
Gotcha.
So I got atheist on my dog tags now.
Yeah.
Little things like that. And if you decide to be buried in Arlington National Cemetery, used to be just the Star of David, the
cross,
and the cross and the crucifix. That's it. But now they got the Muslim. They got there's tons of different things you can have in your headstone. One of them's the humanist symbol and the atheist symbol now.
And what about the oath of enlistment, the phrase?
Oh, that's
"So
another
help me
one.
God"?
Yeah. when you first enlist in the military, and then every 4 years thereafter, if you decide to re-enlist, it starts off with, it's the standard oath, and it ends with "So help me God." Used to be mandatory; you had to repeat it no matter what. Now it's optional. Yeah, so
Gotcha.
that's one good thing too. But yeah.
Yeah. So in closing, in being an atheist in the military, there's a lot of things, a lot of issues to consider, but some things are changing for the better.
For the better. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's becoming more secularized like it should have been from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, there's ways of protesting this, the death grip that religion has on government, which is, and yeah, it's getting better.
Awesome. That's good to hear. It's good to hear. Thanks again for joining us on Atheist Edge. We'll have links down below. Facebook.com, Atheist Edge. Twitter at Atheist Edge. Patreon.com/Atheist Edge. Feel free, like, subscribe, and any comments below. If you're an atheist in the military and you'd like to share your experiences with us, please put those in the comments below. We'll read those and maybe even reach out to you and provide some support. Again, thanks, Atheist Edge. I'm Sam.
I'm Jim.
Cheers.
Take care.
Atheist Edge with Sam and Jim. Walking the edge of what some consider offensive. But your feelings don't matter here, only facts. Edgy commentary on the dangers of doctrine, the foibles of faith, the bullshit of belief, the stupidity of superstition, and the idiocy of indoctrination. With razor-sharp wit, curiosity, and critical thought, we take an unblinking look at today's religions. We are Atheist Edge.